How do you feel about the lights?
It's fine, whatever you want to do.
What do you guys think? Too dark? How about that? Does that work? Okay, good morning everyone. This is the senior exhibition for Maggie Painter. She will have 20 minutes to share her work with us. At 15 minutes, Maggie, I'll give you a signal.
Okay.
And when she's done, we will have time to ask her questions. So, you all set, girly?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Okay, my name is Maggie Painter, so I already know. This is my senior exhibition project, and kind of going first, my essential question, how will learning about art therapy help me give back to the Bush Children's Hospital, as well as help me find inspiration when overcoming personal obstacles? It's a pretty chewy essential question, I do understand. It did take me a long time to get to this point, so if you'll bear with me, I'll kind of explain how I got to where I got to. So my early ideas, I started thinking about Senior X towards the end of the summer, the beginning of the fall last year. And I really wanted to do something involving travel. And I had this really great idea. I was going to go to Honduras with this group called Love Volunteers, which volunteers all over the world. I was going to work in an after schools and orphanages program, helping teach English there. And I was really excited about it. I pretty much had my tickets, bought. I was really looking forward to it. But unfortunately, some things kept me from doing that. This fall, I was diagnosed with pancreatitis, which is the inflammation of your pancreas, which is an organ that helps you digest food. So I was hospitalized for about a week, and I thought, it's kind of the end of it, but my kind of pancreatitis is usually seen in elderly men, so they thought there might be something wrong. So I met Dr. Howell, who's a gastrointestinal specialist in Portland, Maine. He works down there, and he found that I had a growth in the tail of my pancreas. He described it as a tumor about the size of a lime, and he was kind of concerned about it, so he talked to Dr. Rutstein, who's a surgical oncologist. She deals a lot with removing cancerous tumors from patients. And she told me that I required surgery because they weren't sure what the growth was. They really didn't know how to kind of deal with it. So she said, you're going to need abdominal surgery. So this winter, I had abdominal surgery in December, and it affected me on a lot of different levels. First, kind of school and sports. It was really hard for me to kind of jump back into sports, into school. I missed a lot of school. Thankfully, I had a very long extended break this year for Christmas, which is exciting. But so it kind of sent me back in a lot of different ways. And going along with that, the senior exhibition projects, I couldn't go overseas for kind of obvious reasons, and so I was kind of bummed out about that. Family, I know it was a stress to my family as well, having to deal with going back and forth to Portland all the time. And in terms of me personally, I felt extremely limited, and even more than that, I was scared. And that was a feeling, I felt scared before. I feel scared before I run cross-country races, before I give presentations to a bunch of people about projects I do in school. It was a very different kind of scared, something that affected me very deeply in a way that I wasn't expecting. But while I was in the hospital, I got to stay at the Bush Children's Hospital. It's a wing of the main medical center in Portland. Pediatric specialists from all over the state often send their patients there. It's, I think, the biggest, one of the only pediatric hospitals in the state of Maine. It's very patient and family-centered. Families are encouraged to go visit their kids, encouraged to stay overnight, and it has a tremendous amount of community support. People come in and do art projects, crafts, make cupcakes, and then basketball teams come visit. It's an incredible, incredible facility. So when I did get back to school and started jumping into this whole Senior X ordeal, I decided, I was thinking about what I wanted to do. My New Year's resolution was to give something back to the hospital, because they had given me something. It's really hard to explain. The nurses there, the staff, they're absolutely amazing, and they've inspired me, truly. So I thought, okay, I got inspired by this quilting idea. Actually by the AIDS quilt. I was talking to my dad about it. He gave me a pretty cool idea. It's so each patient would make a little section of a quilt and make kind of one larger community quilt for the hospital. When I did talk to the director of Child Life Services, though, she said it was a fire hazard and they wouldn't be able to display it, so I kind of abandoned that idea. I did not want to push it too far. So I decided, okay, maybe I'd host a road race, and kids from the island, surrounding communities, could run and donate money or donate something to the hospital. But when I did hear back from the hospital, they said they were looking not necessarily for monetary donations, but for donations of time and of just kind of interacting with the kids, because that's really what they needed most. So I said, they talked a lot about art, like maybe do an art project, and art is not really something I did a lot in high school. That's one of my biggest regrets, is I never took an art class in high school. But I said, I think it'd be a really cool learning experience for me, as well as something I could give back to the hospital. So kind of going along with the idea of art, I said, it'd be really cool to look into art therapy. I didn't know a whole lot about it at first, to be honest. I knew what art was. I had taken middle school art classes. I knew how to make little pinch pots and draw lines and stuff. But I knew very little about art therapy and how it worked. I think, I knew that, kind of the basic premise, you do art to kind of, explain emotions that you can't explain maybe in words or to people as easily. So I had never experienced art therapy either, so it was kind of very new to me. So I didn't really know what to expect. I was excited to learn about something I had never really learned about before. So I was a little nervous because my artistic skills I'm not extremely confident in, so it was kind of exciting. And so Hillary Termack's my incredible mentor. She is an art therapist at the Acadia Family Center in Southwest Harbor. She's worked in many different settings, from cancer wards to she's worked with different ages, children to adults. And she talked to me a lot about, she has a degree in art therapy and what it kind of means to go through the schooling to get that degree and what that entails. She's been an incredible inspiration. I could not have done this project without her. So we talked a lot about the philosophies of art therapy and kind of the thinking behind what art therapy does for children as well as adults. We looked at a lot of different philosophers from spanning in the last century, I suppose. But I focused mostly on Victor Lowenfeld, who he's a professor of art education at Pennsylvania State University. And he wrote this book called Creative and Mental Growth, which is deemed the single most influential book in art education. So he's a pretty big deal, I guess. But his basic thesis was the growth of a child, both mentally, emotionally, socially, can be seen in the art that they produce. And so he had a theory of stages. Sorry, I can't see that very well. Throughout childhood, as you can kind of see along the right side, it starts with scribbles and kind of goes into the tadpole stage. It's like circles and lines. And then, as children get older, they kind of gain a sense of depth perception and attention to detail. But kind of going along with that, he also talked about how different shapes could kind of show how a child is feeling, or their attention to specific details or use of certain colors. So kind of thinking about him, definitely, that kind of enhanced what I was going to do for the hospital. We also did a lot of therapeutic art projects together, which were really, really fun. First one we did was called Bottles of Hope. It was invented not that long ago, I believe, in the Midwest. Someone decided, it'd be cool if we took medicine bottles, which are, used to have medicine in them, given intravenously, take the labels off, and then cover them in clay. So then you could put inside maybe a message of hope or a dream or a wish. So patients could make this and kind of make a medicine bottle into a vessel for hope and kind of a looking forward to the future. That's the one I made. It's a dinosaur, and that was pretty cool. So the next thing we did was scribble drawing, which I thought was really cool. We each had a big piece of paper, and we drew this huge scribble on it, and then we switched, and we had to find a picture in the paper, and kind of turning it different ways. You could see maybe that looks different than something you'd see there, and I might see something different than all of you. So I see like a face with a little piece of hair hanging off their face, but you could see so many different things. So when we switched drawings and we started coloring in between the scribble lines, we talked about why we saw that picture and what kind of we were thinking about that made us draw that. I ended up drawing this not very beautiful face, but Hillary's lines are the big purple lines, and I colored in between them. And when she talked to me about, why did you see that? What was, what were you thinking when you started drawing this? I kind of thought about, well, that was the end of my AP testing week. It's kind of a blank look on the face, that's the only thing I could go with of why I drew that. It's not very happy. But so I thought it was really cool that you could see something even within a scribble. And the last thing we did was probably my favorite. It's called shrink dinks. You might have done these when you were younger. You have a sheet of plastic and you color on it with colored pencils or markers, and you cut out a shape. Usually a circle or some kind of pendant you can hang in a window. So you put that shape in the toaster and it shrinks down. It looks exactly the same, but it's a lot smaller. And she said she used it with patients to talk about it as a metaphor for change. Maybe you're displaying through these colors some kind of grief or pain, and you draw that out, and when you put it in the toaster, it doesn't change. Well, it changes, but it's the same. It's just smaller, and it's easier to deal with and easier to cope with. Something you can easily put in your pocket and kind of, it's not as much of a burden as something that was much larger. So with all this in mind, I started planning my trip to the hospital. I talked to Charisse Warmel, who's the director of Child Life Services at the hospital, and she was really excited about doing something with clay because people hadn't really done that a lot in the past. So Hillary directed me toward this product called Crayola Model Magic, which is pretty cool. It's this air dry clay from the producer Crayola. And it's white, so you can let it sit overnight, and it'll dry, so you can paint it, and it'd be pretty cool. Hillary also suggested that I use some kind of book prompt as an inspiration. That's what she does a lot when she works with kids. When you want them to make something that kind of represents how they're feeling, you use a book as a prompt. So I chose one of my favorite books, which is Where the Wild Things Are. I kind of had the idea, I don't know if you're all familiar with the book. At the end of the book, he comes home from where the wild things are, and there's a bowl of soup sitting on the counter for him, and it's still hot. And so I was going to talk to the kids a lot about what's that thing you're really looking forward to seeing when you get home? Not thinking about so much the sadness of why you're in the hospital, but looking forward to something that you're moving towards, that you're going to go home to. What's the first thing you wanted to see? She also told me to keep in mind philosophies that we had learned about during the visit there. I know Lowenfeld is definitely a big one, but kind of seeing how they make different shapes and what that means about where they are in their child development. And she also said to use my personal experience. I had stayed in the hospital for a week before, so I knew what it was like to stay there and how even though it's a beautiful facility, it is very confined and you're kind of cut off from a lot of different things. So she said to kind of connect with kids on that way too. So what actually happened, I did come very prepared. I had clay and tools and my book, and I was so ready and so excited. When I got there, I was actually a local soccer team, or some members of a Portland soccer team there, and their families. I believe they were visiting one of the soccer team's members' younger sister. So they were visiting, they were painting rocks, which was pretty cool. Because they're already doing something, we decided we'd kind of combine and put our ideas together and just spend some time with the kids. So kind of as we were interacting with them, you could see the different developmental stages that Lowenfeld was talking about, and Eric Erickson, who also has a similar philosophy concerning stages and development. And so you could see, the younger kids were maybe just squishing the clay in their hands, not really wanting to do a whole lot with it. While the older kids were, using the tools, trying to make detail, kind of bringing out different colors and trying to color on it with the markers to show kind of what they were feeling. And then this is Grace. Grace was a little girl I met there. She's really the only one that released pictures to me that I was able to use in the slideshow because of certain security reasons. I wasn't allowed to take a lot of photos. But Grace's mom did let me take some pictures of her. She was definitely in charge of the day, more than any of us were. She was really funny, and she was really sweet, and she really loved playing with the clay. Those are two members of the soccer team who were there. But she really liked taking it out. We made turtles and penguins, and we painted them. It was really great. Kind of got a little silly after a while. She was really into putting the clay all over people's faces and making these kind of funny masks. And I forget what she called it. It was some kind of, it was very silly. She gave us all fake names, and we put on a dance concert. We ended up putting on a dance concert for the whole unit, whoever wanted to come see, directed by Grace, of course. And It was definitely not according to the plan, but it was really, really fun. Unfortunately, I don't have a video of our dance. It's very good, though. Trust me, it's very good. So it was really an incredible experience working with her. She was a really, really sweet girl. So when I got back, I started reflecting on the experience and things that I had noticed. I talked to Hillary. She told me that not following the plan can be a good thing. I never really got to read out loud the book that I had planned to read. We didn't make, what I thought we were going to make. I did leave the book behind with them so that they could read it in the future if they wanted to, but sometimes not going with the plan can be a really good thing. So the need to be flexible is definitely there. I definitely got to see lots of different kinds of children and their interactions with each other, as well as me, as well as adults. There were really quiet kids who really didn't want to do a lot, and there were kids like Grace who talked the whole time, and who really was, they really wanted that kind of social interaction. And the more I thought about it, I think their actions reflect what they desire most. I had the feeling that Grace was bossing us around because she was seeking that kind of control over her own life, and I could definitely tell she did not want to be in the hospital. She did not want to be going through what she was going through. And I think kind of being in charge of something meant a lot to her. And I was definitely surprised also by the parent and family interaction. I think it was really cool. Well, as much as I talked to the kids, I know the parents wanted to talk to me too. And I think there was a definite need for assurance. Can't really see that. But once they knew that I had been in the hospital, I think it was important for them to see that someone could go through that hospital and it was going to be okay. Like their kid really could be all right. It didn't always have to be that way. And so I started, reflecting on it more personally. As much as it was a therapeutic experience for them, I definitely think it was a therapeutic experience for me. Throughout this whole process, I've been dealing with, I guess, a lot of different emotions concerning what I've been through this year. And kind of being able to see kids smile about something as simple as just doing art, and it meant a lot to them. That's really incredible. So it definitely brought a closure and kind of a new beginning to what, at least for me it did. So I really hope to use art therapy as a tool in the rest of my life. I don't know if I'm going to become an art therapist. I don't know if that's going to be some kind of job for me in the future, but I look forward to using it for other people and as well as for myself. Because Hillary told me you learn about the philosophies and kind of all the science behind art therapy in college, but so much of it really does come from the heart and what you believe in and who you are. So she told me to find something I'm passionate about, whether it's art therapy or any kind of field I decide to go into, and follow that, because that's really important. So where am I going from here? I kind of have the feeling that my senior year is my senior X. It's been kind of an ongoing story of everything that's been happening. So I really hope to use this new learning in college, as well as just kind of going on to the future. I feel like it's not quite over yet, in a way. And I am going to be attending Smith College this fall, and I'm really excited about that. I plan to major in international studies or languages, though I really definitely plan to keep sports and music and travel and definitely art in my life. I'm really glad art has come into my life in this way, and I'm really excited to keep going forward with that. So back to my essential question. How will learning about art therapy help me give back to the Children's Hospital, as well as help me find inspiration when overcoming personal obstacles? I really hope I did give something back to the hospital. I love seeing the kids smile and be excited about doing something together. And I think it also brought the kids together. They hadn't talked to each other a lot, and seeing them interact was really great. It's also helped me find inspiration when overcoming personal obstacles. I know this has helped me surmount what I thought was a big personal obstacle, at least for me. I felt really challenged this year in a lot of different ways, and kind of going through this project, I've been able to find some kind of way to overcome that and move on and be excited about it. So I'd really like to thank Hillary Chermak, my incredible mentor in the audience, Mr. P and Ms. Dillon for getting me through Senior X and putting up with me, my family for everything they've done this past year. They've been absolutely amazing. The hospital and the medical staff who've definitely inspired me to do this project. The panelists for judging me, that sounds bad, but yeah. The audience for coming, thank you so much. And MDI High School, I think Senior X is a really incredible thing. So yeah, and that is the end. And those are my sources.
So this is a time when, first off, the panelists can ask some questions if they'd like before we let other people go. I have one thing that I knew you would leave out.
Oh dear.
Well, as you mentioned that your journey isn't over, right? So
Yes.
Is this something that I should not ask you to tell people where
No, I can tell people if they want
and I
to.
knew for sure you'd leave it out.
I didn't have enough time to put it in the
So the story isn't over, is it, Maggie?
No, it's not. Actually, a few days ago, I had a CT scan. They discovered a pseudocyst that is growing next to my pancreas, not in my pancreas, about the size of an orange, and it's benign completely. It just needs to be drained. So next week, I'm going back to the Portland hospital to see Dr. Howell again, who's very nice. He's gonna hopefully drain it, and that will hopefully be the end of the story. But crossing fingers, it's the end.
And you're too old now, right, to stay at the Bush?
I barely got in the first time. I was like 17 and then like almost 18. So they take 18 and under. So I'm 18 now. I cannot stay there, unfortunately. Maybe I'll go visit. I don't know. We'll see.
And the reason I brought that up is just because the challenge continues for you athletically. Such a frustration.
Yeah.
I think most of you know that Maggie's a really elite athlete, and it has been a giant compromise for her senior year not to be able to perform like she knows she can.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so at this time,